Sit back. This one takes you somewhere real. Every Thursday night, 11 years, same bar, same faces. You knew which stool was Norm's. You knew Coach would make you laugh before you even sat down. 3 of them have left us. One invented his own character in a hallway. And the last face you'll see tonight just received one of television's highest honors, the Golden Globe's Carol Burnett Award for Lifetime Achievement. We're taking this slow because every face here earned their place. And the reason this show mattered isn't the jokes, it's a quieter thing. I'll tell you at the very end. You know, Cheers almost never happened. Nearly last in the ratings its first season, 74th out of 77 shows. NBC kept it on the air because they had nothing else to put in its place. And then something shifted. People found it. They stayed. For 11 years, they stayed. Let's start with the woman who made sure nobody got too comfortable. Before we meet them again, I'd love to know one thing. Who were you watching Cheers with on Thursday nights? Was it your parents' living room? Your first apartment? That one friend who always did the Norm voice when you walked in? Tell me. I read every one. They're why I keep making these. Carla Tortelli didn't wait for you to sit down. She'd already insulted your shirt, your hair, and your choice of beer before you hit the stool. Rhea Perlman played her like she was born in that bar. Sharp, fast, no mercy. She was 34 when Cheers started. Today, she's 78, and she's aging with incredible grace. You remember Carla leaning over the bar, eyes narrowed, ready to ruin someone's day with one sentence. Thursday night, 8:30. That voice cutting through the laugh track like a kitchen knife. What most people don't know is that Perlman won 4 Emmys for Carla, more than anyone else on the show. 10 nominations, a record 6 Golden Globe nods for supporting actress. But here's the part nobody talks about. January 17th, 1971. Rhea Perlman walked into a small theater in New York to see a friend in a one-night play called The Shrinking Bride. She didn't know anyone else in the cast. One of the other actors was a short, intense guy named Danny DeVito. 2 weeks later, they moved in together. 2 weeks. They married in 1982, the same year Cheers premiered. They've been together for over 55 years now, separated, reconciled, separated again, but never divorced. When asked why, she said she simply had no intention of filing. In 2023, she walked onto the set of Barbie and played Ruth Handler, the woman who invented Barbie, at 75. And just last year, she showed up in Poker Face, still quick, still fearless, still Carla in every room she enters. But while Carla kept the bar in line, there was one person she could never quite figure out. The woman behind the bar who thought she was better than all of them. Now, before Diane Chambers set foot in that bar, Shelley Long was something else entirely. In 1967, in Fort Wayne, Indiana, a 17-year-old girl stood on a stage and won the National Forensic League Championship in original oratory. Not acting, debating, persuading a room full of strangers with nothing but her voice. She joined the Second City in Chicago. She co-hosted a local TV show and won 3 regional Emmys. And then, in 1982, she walked into a fictional Boston bar and changed the way America thought about smart, stubborn, complicated women. That look she gave Sam Malone, chin up, half offended, half fascinated. That was the whole show in one glance. Remember the arguments? The two of them going back and forth, faster and faster until you forgot they were acting? She won the Emmy in 1983 and 2 Golden Globes, 5 seasons, and then she made a choice. In 1987, Shelley Long walked away from Cheers. She wanted to be with her young daughter. She wanted to try movies. People said she was crazy, but she did it anyway. She made Troop Beverly Hills, played Carol Brady twice, and showed up on Modern Family for nearly a decade. Today, at 76, time has only deepened her elegance. She lives quietly in Los Angeles, close to her daughter, Juliana, who followed her into acting. She doesn't do many interviews anymore, but every time someone rewatches those first 5 seasons, Diane Chambers walks back into the room like she never left. When Shelley walked away in 1987, the whole country held its breath. Who could possibly take her place? We'll get to that, but first, there's a stool at the end of the bar we need to talk about. Here's something I want you to think about. Cheers ran for 275 episodes. Only 3 characters appeared in every single one. Sam, Carla, and the man who sat right here. There is no way to talk about Cheers without hearing it first. That sound. The door swings open, and the whole bar yells one word. Norm! George Wendt was 33 when he first sat on that stool. He made it look like the easiest job in the world. Walk in, sit down, say something funny, drink a beer. But Norm Peterson was more than a punchline. He was the reason the bar felt like home. He was the proof that you could show up with nothing to offer except yourself, and that would be enough. Every entrance, the door, the yell, the walk to the far end, the one-liner before he sat down. 275 times, and it never got old. You can still hear it if you close your eyes. Not just his voice, the warmth of the whole room rising to meet him. He earned 6 Emmy nominations for Norm. 6. And here's a detail most people miss. His real-life wife, Bernadette Burkett, was the voice of Vera. Norm's never-seen wife, the one always calling from the other room, that was Bernadette. They met at the Second City in Chicago in 1974 and never left each other's side. Before Cheers, George Wendt was expelled from the University of Notre Dame. A 0.0 GPA, first semester of his junior year. 0.0. He found Second City instead, and he found his life. On May 20th, 2025, George Wendt left us peacefully in his sleep. He was 76. Ted Danson said, "It is going to take me a long time to get used to this. I love you, Georgie." Rhea Perlman called him the sweetest, kindest man I ever met. The stool is empty now, but the door never really closed. Maybe right now, you're sitting in the same spot you always sit in. The same chair, the same corner of the couch. We're all creatures of habit. And some habits are how we hold on to who we were. We're halfway to the end of the bar. And I'm curious, did you have a favorite? Were you team Sam and Diane or team Sam and Rebecca? Or were you just there for Norm and Cliff? Drop it in the comments. There's no wrong answer here, just good memories. All right, let's talk about the woman who walked into Cheers with a Tony nomination on her shelf and a pair of ballet shoes in her bag, and turned a guest spot into something nobody saw coming. Right now, in 2026, Bebe Neuwirth is 67 years old. In 2024, she earned a Tony nomination for playing Fräulein Schneider in the Broadway revival of Cabaret. She still carries the same spark we remember, except now it's sharper. Most people know her as Lilith Sternin, Frasier Crane's icy, brilliant, terrifying wife. But here's what they don't know. When Cheers ended, she was asked to do more episodes on Frasier. She chose Broadway instead. She went back to Broadway instead. And then, after 2 hip replacement surgeries ended the dancing career she'd trained for since she was 5, she founded the Dancers Resource at the Actors Fund, a program built specifically to help professional dancers facing the same pain she went through. She turned what broke her into something that heals others. Oh, and she's the only actress in history to play 3 different leading roles in the same Broadway production of Chicago: Velma Kelly, Roxy Hart, Mama Morton. 3 eras, same show, same fire. From someone who chose the stage over the screen to someone who never even had a part written for him, until he wrote it himself. Picture this: 1982, a casting office in Los Angeles. A young actor named John Ratzenberger walks in and reads for the part of Norm, the big, friendly guy at the end of the bar. He doesn't get it. George Wendt does. But on his way out the door, Ratzenberger stops, turns around, and asks the producers a question that changes his entire life. Do you have a bar know-it-all? They didn't. But they loved the idea, and just like that, in a hallway, Cliff Clavin was born. The postal worker with the white socks who knew everything about everything, and was wrong about most of it. It's a little-known fact. You can hear it right now, can't you? That confident lean, that finger in the air, that absolute certainty about something completely made up. The white socks were Ratzenberger's own idea, a tribute to French comedian Jacques Tati. Nobody told him to wear them. He just showed up in them, and Cliff had his signature. And before any of this, in 1969, John Ratzenberger was at Woodstock. Not in the audience. He was operating heavy equipment, helping build the stage. The man who became television's most confident know-it-all spent his 20s building stages for other people. Today, at 79, he wears every year beautifully. And most people have no idea he's one of the highest-grossing actors in movie history. Not from blockbusters with his face on the poster, from his voice. Ham in Toy Story, Yeti in Monsters Incorporated, Mac in Cars, the Underminer in The Incredibles. Pixar called him their good luck charm and put him in 22 straight films. He's still going. Toy Story 5 arrives this year. He lives quietly in Washington State. He never chased the spotlight. He just kept showing up, kept building. Stages, characters, a career most people never see. The man who invented himself in a hallway never stopped inventing. Now, remember when Shelley Long walked away and the whole country wondered who could possibly fill that seat? Here's your answer. You and I, we didn't just watch these stories. We lived alongside them. Shelley Long is gone. The writers are terrified. The network is nervous. And into that silence walks a woman from Wichita, Kansas, with a laugh that could fill any room and a refusal to play it safe. Kirstie Alley didn't try to be Diane Chambers. She didn't even try to be likable in the traditional sense. Rebecca Howe was desperate, ambitious, falling apart in public, and somehow that made her irresistible. She wasn't the intellectual sparring partner. She was the mess. And America loved her for it. Remember the episode where Tom Berenger proposes and she keeps saying no, even though every cell in her body wants to say yes? That scene is a masterclass, funny and devastating at the same time. She brought a completely different energy to that bar. Louder, bolder, a little unhinged in the best way. She won the Emmy in 1991 and a Golden Globe the same year, then took a second Emmy for the TV movie David's Mother. After Cheers, she led Veronica's Closet for 3 seasons, danced her way to second place on Dancing with the Stars, and never stopped working. Here's the story I can't shake. December 5th, 2022. Ted Danson is sitting on a plane, and he does something he almost never does. He pulls up an old episode of Cheers. It's the one where Berenger proposes to Rebecca. He watches Kirstie and starts laughing. 30 years later, she still makes him laugh just as hard. He lands, and that's when he finds out she's gone. Kirstie Alley left us in December 2022 at 71 after a brief illness. Her children, True and Lily, said she fought with great strength and never lost her joy of living. She didn't replace Diane Chambers. She made us forget we ever needed to compare. Think about it. The shows we watched back then, they weren't just shows. They were the sound of the house before everything changed, before the kids grew up, before the chairs started emptying. Of the 9 people we're talking about today, one of them was about to retire when the phone rang. He was 58 years old, he'd directed over 100 episodes of television, and he thought his career was finished. He had no idea he was about to become the heart and soul of the most popular bar in America. If you've made it this far, you're not just watching, you're remembering. And if this is bringing someone back, a Thursday night, a voice, a room that doesn't exist anymore, I'd love for you to be here the next time we do this. It means more than you know. Close your eyes for a second. Listen. You can almost hear him, that quiet, confused voice behind the bar. Not quite getting the joke. Getting something deeper instead. Nicholas Colasanto was 58 years old when he was offered the role of coach. He'd spent decades behind the camera, directing episodes of Columbo, Bonanza, Starsky and Hutch, Hawaii Five-0. Over 100 episodes. He'd served in World War II as a coxswain in the Navy. He'd acted in Raging Bull with De Niro, in Family Plot with Hitchcock, and he was getting ready to retire. Then Coach came along, and everything changed. Coach wasn't the smartest guy in the room. He was the kindest, the one who made you slow down. The one who, in the middle of all the cleverness and the one-liners, reminded you that a good heart matters more than a quick mind. You remember the way he'd pause before answering a question, that beautiful, bewildered pause, like the whole world was a little too fast for him, and he was okay with that. He earned 3 Emmy nominations, 3, and he never won. One of them came after he was already gone. By the 3rd season, Nick was getting thinner. The cast could see it. He kept it quiet. He started hiding his lines on cocktail napkins behind the bar. The producers lit the underside of the counter so he could read them without anyone noticing. He'd scribble cue cards and tuck them out of sight. He never complained. He never asked for special treatment. He just kept showing up. Shortly after Christmas 1984, he was admitted to the hospital. Water in his lungs. When he was released, his doctor told him not to go back to work. He told his castmates not to worry. He said he'd be there for the season finale. He never made it. Nicholas Colasanto left us on February 12, 1985. He was 61. He was sitting up in bed watching television. The cast canceled taping for the day. Over 300 people attended his memorial. But something of his stayed behind. A photograph. Geronimo. It had been hanging in Nick's dressing room, his good luck charm. After he was gone, the cast moved it to the bar set, and there it stayed for 8 more years, through every episode, every Norm, every last call. Who replaces Coach? Who walks into a bar where everybody's still grieving and makes them laugh again? In 1985, a 24-year-old kid from Texas showed up. He'd been an understudy on Broadway in Biloxi Blues. He'd never seen Cheers. His friends told him, "You gotta do this show." He watched an episode or two and said yes. Woody Boyd was written as Coach's pen pal, a kind, simple kid from Indiana who'd been exchanging pens in the mail with the old bartender. It was ridiculous. It was perfect. And Woody Harrelson played him with such genuine warmth that within a season, the grief started to soften. That wide-eyed grin, the way he'd say something accidentally brilliant and have no idea what he'd done. Woody Boyd was innocence without stupidity, a harder thing to play than people realize. He won the Emmy in 1989, 28 years old, standing on a stage holding a gold statue for playing a kid who thought the world was mostly good. And here's a detail that says everything about the man. When NBC suggested keeping Cheers going with Harrelson as the bar owner after Danson wanted to leave, he said no. His exact words, "Ted Danson's the star, and I can promise people will not want to see it without him." After Cheers, Woody Harrelson became someone nobody predicted. Natural-Born Killers, The People vs. Larry Flynt, his first Oscar nomination. The Messenger, second nomination. 3 Billboards, third. True Detective with McConaughey, Haymitch in The Hunger Games. The good-natured bartender from Boston became one of the most fearless actors of his generation. Today, at 64, he radiates the same warmth decades later. He's everywhere. Now You See Me, Now You Don't just came out. He's making a show with McConaughey called Brother from Another Mother for Apple TV. He's voicing characters in Animal Farm. And he's still doing that podcast with Ted Danson. 2 old friends from the same bar, still talking after all these years. He came to fill a silence, and he filled it with laughter. There's one face left. If someone asked you right now, what was your Thursday night like in 1988? You'd know. You'd remember who was in the room, what you were eating, where you sat. That's not nostalgia. That's who you are. There's one face left, the one who poured the drinks, the one who stayed until every stool was empty, the one who, in the very last moment of the very last episode, reached up and did something that still makes people cry 30 years later. You know that feeling when you hear an old song and suddenly you're 17 again? Ted Danson was 34 when he stepped behind that bar. A kid from Arizona who'd studied at Stanford, transferred to Carnegie Mellon, and spent years doing soap operas nobody remembers. He almost wasn't cast. He almost didn't get the part that would define the next 4 decades of his life. But he did. And for 11 seasons, Sam Malone was the center of gravity. The ex-pitcher, the charmer, the guy who could talk his way into anything and out of everything, except the things that mattered. Sam and Diane, Sam and Rebecca, Sam and an empty bar at 2 a.m. Every version of that man worked, because Danson made you believe something. Underneath the swagger was someone who just didn't want to drink alone. He threw the rag over his shoulder the same way every night, that casual toss, like the bar was an extension of his body. You can see it right now if you think about it. 2 Emmys, 11 consecutive nominations, 2 Golden Globes, and 80 million people watched him say goodbye on May 20th, 1993. The second most watched series finale in television history. But the story that gets me is this one. When Danson turned 70, he thought about slowing down, finding what he called a landing spot, taking it easy. Then he met Jane Fonda on the set of Grace and Frankie. She was 80. She'd just finished a full day of shooting, and then she got on a bus to Sacramento to fight for workers' rights. 80 years old, foot on the gas. Danson looked at her and thought, why plan for diminishment? Why tell ourselves to stop when we told our kids they could be anything? He didn't stop. He made The Good Place. 4 seasons of a show about what it means to be a good person. Then A Man on the Inside for Netflix at 76, playing a retired professor who becomes an undercover spy in a retirement home. He was nominated for a Golden Globe and a SAG award. He said, I want to keep working for as long as I physically can because I want to know what it's like to try to be funny at every age. In 2024, he and Woody Harrelson started a podcast, Where Everybody Knows Your Name. 2 old friends from the same bar, still laughing, still talking, 30 years later. He's appeared as a regular in 12 television series, reportedly more than any actor in history. And then, in January 2025, the Golden Globes gave him the Carol Burnett Award, the highest honor in television, given to someone who has changed the medium itself. His wife, Mary Steenburgen, handed him the trophy. He looked out at the room and said, I've always had a confusing relationship with awards. If I win, I feel a little embarrassed and lonely. If I don't win, I feel a little embarrassed and lonely. But not tonight. He looks like he could still pour you a beer and mean it. And here's what ties it all together. Do you remember that photograph? Geronimo, the one Nick Colasanto kept in his dressing room. The one the cast hung on the bar wall after he was gone. In the final shot of the final episode of Cheers, May 20th, 1993, 80 million people watching, Sam Malone walks through the empty bar. He reaches up and he straightens the photograph. Then he turns out the lights. But we can't close this story without honoring the heart at its center. 3 faces from that bar are gone now. Nick Colasanto, the man who hid his lines on cocktail napkins and promised his friends he'd be back. He left us in 1985 at 61. A quiet voice behind the bar that made the whole room kinder. Kirstie Alley, the woman who walked into an impossible job and made it look like the only job she was ever meant to have. She left us in 2022 at 71. A laugh that could fill any room, even now. George Wendt, the man who sat on the same stool for 11 years and made belonging look effortless. He left us in May of 2025 at 76. The sweetest, kindest man in the room. Every room. They're gone from the screen, but never from the room. Not really. 11 years. 275 episodes. 10 people who walked into a bar and became family. Not a Hollywood family. The real kind. The kind that stays. The White Sox. The norm. The cocktail napkins hidden under the bar. The photograph that nobody took down. Some things don't fade. They just wait. Remember the quieter thing I promised? Here it is. Cheers wasn't about people who had it all figured out. It was about people who kept showing up anyway. And maybe that's what we needed to see, that you don't have to be perfect to belong. If you could go back in time to the exact living room where you first watched Cheers, who would be sitting next to you on that couch one more time? If this story stayed with you, there's another one waiting. The cast of Laverne and Shirley, and where life took them after the laughter stopped. If you haven't seen it yet, I'd love to have you with me for that one. The memories are still there. I'll meet you in them next time.